All right, so this day is all about the common union service. You can see that things are a little bit different up here today. And what I would like to do is just to go ahead and push into the message for the day, because this is a beautiful ceremony. One of my favorite ceremonies. We've got a lot of them. We've got later in the spring, I believe in April, we're going to push in the flower communion service that I created. Then in the fall, we'll do the in-gathering of the water communion service, which I love to do in the fall. But this is a very special one because this is one of our ritualized services within the United Metaphysical Churches that all of our churches across the country demonstrate to the public and present to their congregations. And I want to read to you just a little bit of wordsmithing about Brother Jesus. It's in the Bible because this is very appropriate to start off the vibration of the message. So bear with me. The book of Matthew, chapter 19, Jesus is talking to his disciples. Basically, he's on a hill. It's a starry night. The breeze is blowing and, maidens in the distance and all that. And Jesus is talking to the disciples, trying to explain to them about, you just got it? Okay, good. Okay, it's all right. You're in the front row. Oh, Texas. No, that wasn't my joke. Usually I start with a joke. Today I'm pushing right into the service. So anyway, Jesus is working with the disciples, trying to get them, trying to raise their vibration so that they will understand the principles of what is God, where is God, what is heaven, where is heaven. And we're going to talk about all these principles today. And Jesus explains to them, and he says this in the scripture of Matthew 19. He says, "It is easier for a rope to go through the eye of a needle than a rich man to enter into the kingdom of God." And so they're perplexed. They don't understand what he's saying, and they don't believe that it makes a lot of sense. So they say, well then, who can be saved? Because they don't understand what he just told them. So he reiterates, he rebuilds this concept, and he says, for men, this is impossible. But for God, everything is possible. Why did he say that? Why did he say it? Because men focus on what? Third dimensional life, materialism, our five senses. And when you're of that vibration, that frequency, you cannot enter the kingdom of heaven. We're going to get into that in a minute. And so, but for God, everything is possible. When you change your life, when you sit in meditation, when you start your studies, when you start to work with teachers and mentors, and you start attending church, and you attend healing services, and you try to serve your fellow man, woman, and child, you raise your spiritual vibration. Okay? So when you begin that process of raising your spiritual vibration, you are bringing God more fully through you. So for God, everything is possible. For you, a divine creation, everything is possible if you have your mind in the right place. I always say when you change your mind, you change your life. And it has the very same vibration as what we're talking about today. Beautiful. So in that example I gave you, these rich materialistic people that we spoke of, those people are seeking, self-seeking really. They're seeking to pleasure themselves outside of themselves. They're using the senses, they're using materialism and all these things that rich people, and us, my wallet's a little empty today, not so rich people. The rich people in the story are seeking materialism, a different vibration. And so when we understand that, we can also understand that the rich people are not seeking themselves inside where the kingdom of heaven is figuratively. If God is expressing through us the kingdom of God, the kingdom of heaven is right here. It is with me. And that's where that comes in, that whole symbolism and analogy and that beautiful example. And in that scriptural reference that I read to you, that's where we get this understanding of common union. Right? Common union. So in a sense, we're having communion with God because we're recognizing God is right here. God is in the space. God is in everything, in the light, in the sound, in the walls, the floors, the flowers. God is everything in expression. So when we focus that way, we begin to understand that we are always in communion with God. Beautiful. Jesus was also quoted as saying, to know oneself is to know God, because in that saying, we understand that we return yet again, to the concept of God, that we're connected to the God source. Okay? The kingdom of heaven, where divine source is found, is inside of us, not outside of us. There can be no separation between God and humanity. Now, isn't it wonderful? Because we as divine metaphysicians, we know through our communication with the world of spirit. We know that God is always present. The light of God that they speak of shines equally upon all of us, just like the sun in our solar system. It doesn't have judgment, it doesn't have discrimination, it doesn't have favoritism, right? The sun shines equally. And so that's why all the mystics and the prophets of old are always speaking about the sun and the moon, but mostly the sun. The light of the sun is always raining down, it's always present. And so we use that beautiful symbol of God as the light of God equally shining on all of us. And sometimes we feel that the light of the sun, meaning the light of God, bears down on somebody more than it does on the next person. And we somehow feel, and we by assessing these situations in people's lives around us, we get this sense that God favors them, but not me. What have I done to not receive equally this beautiful light of God's presence in my life? Where have I missed the mark? Other churches would call that word, missing the mark, sin. And we've all heard that word, not a pleasant word. What's interesting is that the very origins of that word have been so misconstrued and abused. Unfortunately, it's turned into a weapon. And we don't do that here. But we understand that the word sin originally meant to miss the mark as in an archer's target. That's all it meant. So when you think about missing the bullseye of your spiritual target, when you go off track, all you need to do is step back on the road to whatever your journey is, whether your journey to spiritual healing, to singing, to ministry, whatever it is, your journey in life. When you get back on that road, you are back in alignment with God. Doesn't matter if you're succeeding or if you're failing. You're back on the road. You're on your track. And that's what's most important. That's what's most important. Most of us were taught incorrectly that these physical body temples, really this body and this soul is what we think. This physicality is somehow separated from that divine cosmic creator of love. We somehow feel that we are separated, that God is beyond the clouds, beyond the stars in a galaxy far, far away, right? We feel that God is somehow detached, looking down upon us. Vibrationally, it's a downward vibration. So when I say God up there or us down here, I'm speaking in vibrational terms, not in positions or places. Okay? That's something very important for you to understand. You see, God's love is unconditional for all of us, and that means that regardless of our mistakes, we will always be a very loved part of the whole presence of God. Always. No matter our choices, our thoughts, our actions, our deeds. We talk about this sometimes. We're never separate from God. You see, heaven is a state of consciousness. That's a powerful statement. I hope you're awake. I hope you're awake. I know sometimes people fall asleep in my sermons. They used to. Ooh, I used to. Who was here? Glenn. You've been here a long time.
Yes.
Oh, remember those 20-page sermons?
Oh, God.
Oh. Yeah. You know, God blesses the righteous in Glenn because he has lasted the longest. I was a little professor. I learned that's not what you do. I went to seminary. But what I'm trying to say is that heaven is a state of consciousness. This is powerful. This is very key for who and what we are. Heaven is a state of consciousness. It's a state of mind. Heaven is not a place that we go to, like, out beyond the stars, up in the heart. It is in a higher dimension. But when we talk about the essence of who we are continuing on after that change called death, where does that consciousness of Kevin, where does the consciousness of Martha, where does this consciousness go? It goes into the higher realms of life, and we call that a heavenly state of existence or a hellish state of existence. Okay, so we don't believe in the concept of heaven and hell in the traditional sense. We understand that it's a state of mind. And so if I'm living my life and I'm having this amazing musical life, producing and creating and working with kids, and I say I'm a musical note C in this life and I'm successful, and my life is good and I'm of service to a lot of people, I'm going to go when I transition to something vibrationally very similar of a musical note C. That's the best way I can explain it. Okay? So that's how it works for us. Maybe I'm saintly in this life, so I'm going to probably go to a much higher vibrational place of existence, a plane of existence, than the common person because I've earned it vibrationally, spiritually. Okay? It doesn't matter what plane you land on. It's just, are you working towards your spiritual goals? That's what matters the most. Heaven is not a place we go to. And we are gathered here today to take part in this beautiful ritual that honors the divine bond between our infinite intelligence, meaning God, and humanity. And why do we demonstrate this beautiful metaphysical ritual in our churches? This ritual is actually, within divine metaphysics, is an outward expression. It's an activity that we do that symbolizes our inner spiritual reality. It symbolizes our inner spiritual reality. When we approach this altar that's been beautifully set up by Joni this morning, thank you, appreciate that. When we approach this altar, we have juice and we have bread. And so these two elements are very symbolic. They're actually very ancient. These elements, they represent and give us the opportunity to affirm that we have always a unity with God. We have a unity with highest divine source. This ritual affirms there will never be, there never has been, there isn't a separation between God and humanity. And when we walk out these doors, maybe we go visit an Orthodox church or a very traditional, very conservative church or spiritual temple, place of worship, you will see the spiritual leader, priest, rabbi, whomever. You will see that figurehead standing literally and symbolically, that's very interesting, between the congregational members, very rarely the public, and God. So that priest, that spiritual leader, will stand symbolically and literally between you and God. And they are the gatekeeper, if you will, between you and divinity. And that's a really false concept. I want you guys to understand that there is no priest other than yourselves, because we are God in expression. Very important. Very, very important. I'm not dissing the other churches and spiritual centers because vibrationally, their soul needs that journey for some reason. We can't judge it. That's another important fact for us to understand. You see, a lot of times they teach this false principle that humanity is not worthy, they're not capable of connecting with the God source themselves. And we know, we've proven it. We do it quite often. We sit in meditation. We demonstrate spiritual healing in front of the church. I demonstrate messages from the higher realms of life from time to time. And those demonstrations prove to me that I am always in connection with divine source. The kingdom of heaven is right here because I always feel blessed. I always feel blessed. I live in gratitude. Every day I do one point of gratitude. And I tell you, that will open the gates to heaven within yourselves if you will find one point of gratitude. Somebody walked up to my door the other day. Hopefully it's not one of you guys. I can't remember who it was. Somebody walked up and said, "Oh, my feet are killing me." I said, "At least you got feet." Where I work in the hospital, sometimes they don't have feet. I said, remember, just find one point of gratitude. You have beautiful feet, beautiful lungs, you can breathe good air. Your hands work, you've got a beautiful mind. Your body seems like it's working in good order. You have a beautiful working body temple. Let's be grateful there. You can start there. Every day, just a little bit of point of gratitude. And when you do that, you literally bring in more divine vibration into your life. So powerful. When we talk about common union, we also have to talk about our Christed consciousness. We have to recognize that divine spark within each and every one of us that we bring through our gifts of spirit and our service and just our kindness and our love. I love that video this morning, talking about love. It really is the most basic principle in the world. And when we talk about this, we understand that we have, that's right, this morning, we did remember the meet and greet, where we said, you are the God spark creation? That came from the Spirit Circle. Spirit gave that to us directly upstairs in Remain. That was fascinating. And I brought that down into the service. It's been beautiful. But it's a reminder that we have that God spark within us, that we have Christed consciousness potential within every single one of us. If we are made in the image and likeness of God, then we are children of God technically. We are the expression of God. We are heirs to everything and all the greatness God is. Why are we not vibrationally aligned with that? Why are we not bringing more of that through? So we're not these separate body temples. We are, our true self, our spirit, our higher spirit, really is an expression of that infinite intelligence called God. And we hold this beautiful ritualistic service to reflect our metaphysical principles and we affirm, we express physically and outwardly that a state of communion does exist, always has. Beautiful. Now I want you to realize this. Listen up, wake up. Right? Now wake up again. When you come up here and you partake of these two elements, it does not in any way heal you, doesn't cleanse you, doesn't forgive you of anything. That's not what this is about. You see, stepping forward to partake of these elements, it doesn't even win you brownie points with God. God doesn't care whether you walk up here or not. And that was a surprising thing for a preacher to say. Right? Doesn't win you any brownie points. What it does do is it gives you a moment with yourself and the divinity within to express forward at the altar, and you take that home with you. You take our teachings home with you, and you shine that light on other people, and you share these teachings with other people. And that is what communion is all about, common union with the people. So beautiful. Here's a very interesting factoid I want to throw in. In the Middle East, in the Middle Eastern region, especially around Galilee, it's quite interesting because they share bread and wine just as we do. They've done this for thousands of years. And they do this because it's very customary and very honorable. A host of a party, of any dinner gathering or in-gathering, will ask typically the men, I don't know why the women, but in my research it said men. Maybe we can change that. But it said the men are asked to share one cup. And they always have wine in that cup. And so isn't it interesting that all of the churches and temples and spiritual centers around the world, you continue to use this very ancient ritual. And what it symbolizes is unity and brotherly love. Unity and brotherly love. So it's interesting. I don't know if you can see in the front of the altar, but it says, do this in remembrance of me. And so what Jesus was saying to me when he said that little saying, and it's in every church, almost on every altar in America, what it means is I'm never separate from you. Just because the story says he hung on a cross, we don't know if that's true. But it's a beautiful story, principally. But we understand we're never separated from Master Jesus, from all the other prophets, from our brothers and sisters, our parents, grandparents, even from the divine source. Never separate. So when you come forward today, do this in remembrance of all of your loved ones in spirit, your guides, your teachers, your angels, whomever you call upon, the saints, God. Call all of that forward. Bread holds a very mystical sacredness because it is God's provision for one of humanity's most basic of needs. And did you know this? An Easterner will never lie when there is bread on the table. They have to tell the truth. So that's why they always put bread on the table, right? Because they understand there's a mystical sacredness. They believe that God expresses through the bread and through the juice and through the unlit candle flames and the flowers. I forgot to light the candles. I got to check to do everything. That's okay. Isn't that funny what we focus on? God doesn't care about that unlit candle. But what I'm trying to say to you is that it's very interesting because these rituals are ancient and they understood the principles of spirituality within their brothers and sisters, the men, women, and children around them. I want to remind us all today that regardless of our daily actions and regardless of our choices, our thoughts, there is always an inner welcoming home within that. When we go and we meditate, we go within every day, and that's in sitting in the power, sitting in the silence. When we feel we might have missed the mark in our lives a little bit, when we feel we might have gone off target for our lives spiritually, all we have to do is redirect our lives back on track. That's all we have to do. There's no separation between God and humanity. And I offer you this today, our main life-affirming principle, our ninth declaration of principle. This we believe, that the doorway to reformation is never closed to any soul here or hereafter. Beautiful. Very beautiful. As we push into this ritual and we step into this moment of coming forward, I just want to give you a little bit of instruction. You can continue. This ritual is about the individual. The only priest here today, the only preacher here today is you. You stepping forward in your truth. All are invited today, including our guests, to come forward and to share in these two symbolic elements of divine nurturing and divine love. As you step forward, I just ask that we create two rows, and then just take a piece of the bread, dip it into the juice, and return to your seat. You can always say, a lot of people say prayers, open themselves up to the spirit world of life, to God, bringing in that power fully, and then walking back to their seats. That's very common. You're welcome to do that. You can also sit in your chair and meditate. That's quite acceptable. Bread that you see before you, this bread symbolizes a wholesome substance, and this is the support and nurturing for the physical person, for our physical body. This is created by nature from divine source. And the juice that is represented here is a fluid substance. This substance symbolizes the spiritual flow in our life, the nurturing, the energy of God's presence flowing through us. The ushers today will direct the congregation to the front of the sanctuary. And as they do that, I want you to just proceed at your own bidding to approach this altar. You can return to your seat in prayer and meditation. All are welcome. Let us just take a moment to bless this altar as one family. Just raise up your hands. Allow me to enter into prayer. Infinite Spirit, loving God, Mother, Father, Principal, bless and prosper these elements on this altar. Bless and prosper this amazing church family. And bless and prosper our lives, that justice and love may be the measure of our community. As we partake in this bread and the juice today, we honor you, Divine Creator. We honor all of your creation today. As we bless and share these elements today, we also celebrate the table fellowship of our church family. As we receive the fruits of our spiritual services, we celebrate the communion of all things, of all people, and today we celebrate the blessing. We celebrate the fellowship of those in spirit and of God's truth, always. All are worthy. Today, all are welcome. And I say, Om Shanti. Amen. Ushers, if you would, please begin. We're going to now move. I would like for you to recite the Common Union response. It should be projected on the screen. Beautiful. Let's say this together. I am in sanctuary, in perfect temple, with God, at all times, nurturing, sustaining, divine truth flows from God, through me, in temple, and back to my source of love continually. I am, that I am, is the only truth of my whole being. I am truth, I am light, I shine, I am peace, and so it is.
Yes, red and yellow, black and white in celebration.